So iAccelerate's been going on for about almost 8 years now. Now we're really looking at what can take us to a completely next stage. The first stage was getting things started. The second stage was getting into this building, understanding how we could run a program for a lot more companies. And then from that, we began to think about how we could help more companies in the regional areas, how we can interact with the university, how we can interact with our community more. Now we want to say, okay, let's go ahead and just do some of those things. So we've already started with the BIGA Hub, and BIGA has been our first hub where we are actually looking at how we take our program and leverage that so that actually another community could take advantage of that and leverage the scale we've established here. But we don't think that's the end of it. We think there are a lot more opportunities out there, including other regions and also internationally. And our linkages internationally creates another level of opportunity for our businesses here, but also for investors and others who want to engage with iAccelerate to become acquainted with us and to begin to build up our capability. So one of our real strengths is diversity. Diversity in the kind of companies that come in here. So we don't only talk about high tech, or we don't only talk about med tech or fintech. We talk about businesses that are actually solving problems. And that means that they are actually part of the community already that they are serving. So that allows us to also to think about things more broadly. So we talk about health, we talk about education, we talk about people who are doing logistics, people who are working on drones, and people who are working on the next food additive perhaps, and algae growing and so forth. So diversity comes in many shapes and sizes, but so do our founders. The founders who come and create these companies are coming from diverse backgrounds that allow them to think outside the square. So we really encourage that in every way we can, and we've been able to actually develop founders here that are women as well as those from marginalized groups as well. But right now we're up to 50% women founders in our business here, and that's a big achievement in the entrepreneurship world. And we're very proud of that, but it's not because it just happened, it's because we actually began to look outside of the traditional areas for new businesses and new startups. We looked at in the health areas and the education areas where it's mostly women who are working in these areas but are not being recognized for what they're doing, or that they may be the ones who are developing and creating the next generation of businesses. That is what we really want to be focusing in on. On top of that, we're also really mindful that there are still some areas where we're not doing a great job. And indigenous areas has traditionally been an area that people haven't really looked at for entrepreneurship, and we think that needs to be fixed. We are just bringing on an indigenous entrepreneur in residence as part of our effort to ensure that we're not missing something, and we're actually beginning to understand what differences we may need to make in our own program to ensure that Indigenous people feel welcome and also feel they're getting something that may be missing from the program today. So this is part of a long-term journey, but one that we're completely committed to. iAccelerate, after all, becomes something more than just an accelerator or incubator. It really becomes a place of intersection for the community. And that means we have people from the city council here who are looking to take entrepreneurial methods to actually apply to solving problems for the community. We have our arts people here, our arts and festivals people here, because we really want them to also feel that they are part of this journey, and they can not only learn from it, but they can also contribute as full members of this community here. So the reality for us is that researchers and students and people from city councils and people and artists who are displaying on our walls here to all be part of something that's greater. Because at the end of the day, it is the intersections that give us this amazing capability to do things that others really can't even imagine. Even Leonardo da Vinci, one of my heroes, he wasn't just an engineer, and he just wasn't an artist and just a scientist. He was someone who thought about all of it. And his ability to put those things together was what made him such a master. We believe that's what we're trying to create here, is an opportunity for more people to do things that are just amazing and beyond what they thought was possible. So we've established a program that takes 12 weeks, and that takes someone who has an idea, and a pretty good idea about what they want to focus on, and it actually helps them build that business to something that's actually viable and investable. But for many people, taking 12 weeks is a long time, and maybe it's more than they can afford. So we're looking at trying to now create something we call a pre-accelerator, which allows us to put in a much more condensed fashion the basics of what we would do in a 12-week program to allow more people to come in, really test that idea out before they fully commit to it. Or maybe a larger business who are thinking about creating something that's going to be different than what they're doing currently, but they want to put that into an environment where that can be actually taken to the next stage without, again, making the full long-term commitment. Or maybe that we want to tailor it for students, and we're really looking forward to actually engaging with high school students, and we're even talking to people who are encouraging us to go down to elementary school students and teaching them some of the elements of what it takes to be an entrepreneur, or in fact how entrepreneurship can help them find their pathway through their careers or just through their lives. So we're seeing this as a continuum, so that's why we're building steps like the pre-accelerator and even a test your idea module that just allows people in one afternoon to find out if their idea might be worth taking to the next stage. But imagine if we have a continuum from let's say 5th grade right through to when you graduate, and then you come to university environment and say, I want to continue with this entrepreneurship. And then when they're ready to come into a place like iAccelerate, to really then take it to the market. So for us, this is not only about trying to create just startups who already have identified themselves, but to give people alternatives earlier, to give them that self-confidence, maybe give them the opportunity to do things that they were, again, thinking was not something that they would be able to do. So this is part of a journey that we think is much larger and hopefully much richer for a lot more people.